My daughters asked me why their mother's cousin didn't know their grandmother's name. I couldn't tell them the truth yet that their mom was living a lie, and their dad was hiding something even bigger. Sometimes the best revenge is just letting people reveal themselves. Before we begin, let me know where you're tuning in from down in the comments. And if you enjoy this story, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss our next tale. Chapter 1. The first light of dawn painted the Wyoming sky in shades of pink and gold, same as it had every morning for the 40 years I'd been alive. I stood on the porch of our ranch house, coffee mug warming my calloused hands, watching the sun climb over the endless prairie. 500 acres of honest land stretched before me, my little piece of heaven outside Cheyenne. The morning air bit sharp and clean, carrying the scent of sage and the distant lowing of cattle. "Dad, you seen my riding boots?" Ruby's voice carried from inside the house, followed by the familiar sound of drawers slamming. "Check the mudroom, sweetheart," I called back, smiling into my coffee. 15 years old, and that girl still couldn't keep track of her things if her life depended on it. Through the kitchen window, I could see Frida flipping pancakes, her dark hair pulled back in a messy bun, humming some tune from the radio. Even after 18 years of marriage, the sight of her in the morning light still made my chest tighten. She caught me looking and blew me a kiss through the glass, that same playful smile that had knocked me sideways when we first met at a cattle auction all those years ago. "Ansel Rodriguez, you planning on standing out there all morning, or you gonna come eat these pancakes while they're hot?" she called, tapping the spatula against the window. I headed inside, the screen door creaking on its hinges, a sound that meant home more than any words could. Georgia sat at the kitchen table, nose buried in her AP history textbook, blonde hair falling like a curtain around her face, 17 and already talking about college applications. Where'd the time go? "Morning, college girl," I said, ruffling her hair as I passed. "Dad, seriously?" She smoothed it back down but smiled. "I'm trying to look presentable for once." "You look beautiful, Mia," Frida said, sliding a stack of pancakes onto George's plate. "Both my girls do." Ruby thundered down the stairs, boots finally located, her face flushed with victory. "Found them. They were behind the washing machine. Don't even ask how they got there." This was us, the Rodriguez family. Simple ranchers living a simple life, or so it seemed. I watched my family eat breakfast, listened to Ruby complain about her algebra teacher, watched Georgia roll her eyes at her sister's dramatics, felt Frida's hand squeeze my shoulder as she refilled my coffee. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. And absolutely built on a lie. Not Frida's lie, not yet anyway. That would come later. Though I didn't know it that morning. No, this lie was mine, and it was a whopper. See, I wasn't just some regional manager for a cattle company, pulling down a modest salary and working myself raw to keep food on the table. The truth was something else entirely. 3 years back, in 2011, my father passed. Miguel Rodriguez had been a giant of a man, both in stature and in the Wyoming cattle business. When the cancer finally took him, he left me more than memories and grief. He left me the Wyoming Cattle Corporation, WCC, to those in the know. Over 500,000 acres of prime ranch land. Holdings worth $2.9 billion with a capital B. I became the largest ranch owner in Wyoming overnight, and my wife didn't have a clue. Now, before you judge me too harshly, let me explain. My father raised me on what he called the frontier honor, a code as old as the first Rodriguez to set foot in Wyoming back in 1892. "Trust is earned through sweat and kept through truth," he'd say. "But a man's worth ain't in his wallet, mijo. It's in how he treats his family and his land." When he was dying, laid up in that hospital bed looking smaller than I'd ever seen him, he grabbed my hand with what strength he had left. "The empire's yours now, Ansel, but remember, anyone who betrays the family's trust forfeits everything. That's the code. That's always been the code." I'd nodded, thinking he meant business partners or employees. I never imagined I'd need to apply that code to my own wife, but I'm getting ahead of myself. The decision to keep the inheritance secret from Frida wasn't made lightly. Call it a test if you want. Call it paranoia. Hell, call it stupid, Lord knows I've called it all three. But I needed to know she loved me for me, not for the money. I'd seen too many marriages in the cattle business turn sour when money entered the equation. Seen too many good men become walking ATMs for wives who loved their bank accounts more than them. so I kept working my regular job, came home dirty and tired, complained about my boss at the company, and kept the truth locked up tighter than a bull in a squeeze chute. Frida never questioned it. Why would she? I'd been working for WCC for years before Dad died. She just didn't know I'd gone from employee to owner. "Honey, you're gonna be late," Frida said, snapping me back to the present. She stood behind my chair, hands on my shoulders, kneading the knots that always settled there. "That fence in the north pasture isn't going to fix itself." "Yes, ma'am," I said, catching her hand and kissing her palm. She smelled like vanilla and coffee, same as always. "Will you be home for dinner?" "I'm making pot roast." Wouldn't miss it for the world. That was our dance. Every morning, the same rhythm. She'd send me off with a kiss on the cheek and a reminder to be careful. I'd tip my hat, climb into my beat-up Chevy, not the new F350 I could easily afford, and drive out to work. Some days that meant actual ranch work on our property. Other days it meant discreet meetings with the board of directors, multi-million-dollar deals signed in conference rooms that Frida thought I'd never see the inside of. The girls knew I worked hard to provide for them. They'd grown up understanding the value of a dollar, the importance of earning your keep. Georgia had been saving for college since she was 14, working summers at the feed store. Ruby helped with the horses for pocket money. They didn't know their college funds were already set, that I could buy them each a university if I wanted. That wasn't the point. The point was raising them right, teaching them what my father taught me, that work had dignity, that money didn't make you better than anyone else. Frida, though. Frida had dreams. I'd catch her sometimes, flipping through those magazines, Luxury Homes, Architectural Digest, Town and Country. She'd hide them when I came in, like a kid caught with candy before dinner. Her real estate business did well enough. She was good at what she did, charming and smart, with an eye for matching people to properties. But I knew she wanted more. "Wouldn't it be nice," she'd say sometimes, usually after a glass or two of wine, "to have a place in Denver? Just a little condo, nothing fancy. Somewhere we could escape to when the winter gets too harsh out here." "This is home," I'd remind her gently. "Everything we need is right here." She'd smile and agree, but I'd see something flicker in her eyes. Disappointment, maybe, or just dreams deferred. I loved my wife. Lord help me. I loved her more than breath. But love and trust, those were becoming two different things, even if I didn't recognize it yet. Fall came to Wyoming like it always did, sudden and golden. The aspens on the distant mountains turned to flame, and the morning air took on that crisp edge that meant winter was loading its guns. It was October 2013, and we were preparing for the holidays already. Frida had this thing about getting ready early, said it helped her enjoy the season more. One evening, she came home late from what she said was a showing in Laramie. I'd already fed the girls, helped Ruby with her homework, which mostly meant Googling algebra solutions on my phone while pretending I remembered how to do it. Sorry, Frida said, breezing in with a rush of cold air. The client was so picky, wanted to see every closet twice. She kissed me quick, but something was off. There was a smell on her cologne, but not mine. I wore Old Spice when I wore anything at all. This was something expensive, something that probably cost more than I supposedly made in a week. New perfume? I asked, trying to keep it light. She froze for just a heartbeat. If I hadn't been watching, I might have missed it. Oh! She laughed, but it came out forced. No, the client, Mr. Patterson, he knocked over his cologne sample in the car. Got it all over me. Stuff costs more than our mortgage payment. Can you believe it? I could believe it. What I couldn't believe was the way she wouldn't meet my eyes when she said it. That night, as we got ready for bed, I noticed her phone. She'd always left it on the nightstand, face up, sound on. We didn't have secrets, or so I thought. But now she kept it face down, on silent, and when a text came through that made it buzz against the wood, she snatched it up like it might explode. Work stuff, she said, not looking at me. Another showing tomorrow. On a Sunday? You know how it is. Clients from out of town, only day they can make it. I knew how it was, all right. I was starting to anyway. The thing about suspicion is that once it takes root, it grows like kudzu in summer. Every late night became suspect. Every phone call she took in the other room, every smile that seemed just a little too bright, every explanation just a little too detailed. But I pushed it down. This was Frida, my wife, the mother of my children, the woman who'd stood by me through drought years and hard winters, who'd held my hand at my father's funeral, who still slow danced with me in the kitchen when the girls weren't looking. Christmas came and went. We hosted the whole family, my mother Clara, my brother Raphael, cousins from Laramie and Sheridan. The house filled with laughter and the smell of tamales and prime rib. Frida played the perfect hostess, charming everyone, making sure glasses stayed full and plates stayed loaded. But I caught my mother watching her, those sharp eyes that missed nothing narrowed just slightly. "Everything okay, Ma?" I asked, finding her alone on the porch despite the cold. "You tell me, mijo," she said, pulling her shawl tighter. "That wife of yours seems distracted. It's been a busy season for her. Real estate picks up before the holidays." Clara made that sound she made when she didn't believe you but wasn't going to push. If you say so. Later, when everyone was gone and the girls were in bed, I found Frida in the living room staring at the dying fire, her phone in her lap. "Good party," I said, settling beside her on the couch. "Mm-hmm. Ma thinks you seem tired." She looked at me then, and for a moment I saw something raw in her eyes. Fear? Guilt? But then she smiled, that 1,000-watt smile that had sold 100 houses. "Your mother thinks everyone who isn't working themselves to death is tired. I'm fine, honey. Just thinking about the new year, all the possibilities." "What kind of possibilities?" She curled into me, her head on my shoulder. "Oh, you know, maybe expanding the business, maybe making some changes." "Changes? Nothing major, just sometimes I wonder if we're living too small, you know? If maybe we could dream a little bigger." I held her close, smelling her hair, feeling the warmth of her against me. "I think we're doing just fine." "Of course you do," she said, and there was something in her voice I didn't like. "You're a simple man with simple needs." Simple. If only she knew. Looking back now, I can see all the signs were there, bright as neon in a dark bar. But when you love someone, really love them, you've got these blinders on. You explain away what doesn't fit, rationalize what doesn't make sense. You tell yourself you're being paranoid, jealous, foolish. You tell yourself right up until the moment you can't anymore. That moment was coming faster than a stampede, and I was standing right in its path, still believing I was safe. New Year's Eve, we stood on the porch watching fireworks in the distance, probably from the Johnson Ranch 5 miles south. The girls had already gone to bed, and it was just us, champagne glasses in hand, well, beer for me, champagne for her. "What are your resolutions?" I asked, pulling her close against the cold. "To be happy," she said, so quietly I almost missed it. "Aren't you happy now?" She turned in my arms, looked up at me with those dark eyes that had owned me since day one. "Of course I am. I want more." "Is that wrong?" "More what?" "I don't know. Adventure, excitement, something different." I should have heard the warning in those words. Should have recognized the restlessness of a heart already wandering. But all I heard was my wife needing something I thought I could give her, if only I told her the truth about our fortune. Almost did, too. Came within a breath of saying, "Honey, we've got more money than you could spend in 10 lifetimes. But something held me back. Call it my father's voice. Call it instinct. Call it pure Rodriguez stubbornness. Instead, I kissed her forehead and said, "Difference overrated. What we have is real." She didn't answer, just turned back to watch the fireworks paint the sky. Her phone buzzed in her pocket and she didn't reach for it, but I felt her tense, felt her want to. That was the night I really knew that something was wrong. Not what, not who, not how bad it would get. But standing there with my wife in my arms, feeling her pull away even while she stood still, I knew our perfect life was about to become something else entirely. The Wyoming wind picked up, cutting through my jacket like accusation. Somewhere in the darkness, a coyote howled, lonely, desperate, and too close to home. Chapter 2. February in Wyoming can break your heart or your back, depending on the day. That February of 2014 seemed determined to do both. The cold came down from Canada like judgment, freezing everything solid enough to shatter. I spent most days breaking ice on water troughs and hauling hay to cattle huddled against the wind. Real work, honest work, the kind that left you tired enough to sleep without dreams. But even exhaustion couldn't quiet the noise in my head anymore. It was a Tuesday night, stars so bright they looked like ice crystals when Frida called to say she'd be late again. 4th time in 2 weeks. "Big client from Colorado," her voice crackled through the phone. "Wants to see that ranch property out past Miller's place. You know how these out-of-towners are, they think 7 p.m. Showings are perfectly normal." I stood in our kitchen, watching Georgia help Ruby with her science project, something about volcanoes that had required enough baking soda to stock a bakery. On a Tuesday? In February? Roads are pretty bad after dark. "I've got 4-wheel drive, honey. Don't worry about me." But I did worry. Not about the roads. "Will you at least be home for dinner?" "Save me a plate. Love you." The line went dead before I could respond. Georgia looked up from the volcano construction, her expression too knowing for 17. "Mom's working late again?" "Yeah, sweetheart. Big client." Ruby piped up. "She's been having a lot of those lately." Out of the mouths of babes. I fed the girls leftover chili and cornbread, helped Ruby perfect her volcano, which erupted all over the kitchen table, much to her delight, and sent them off to bed with the usual negotiations about screen time and reminders about early morning chores. It was past 11 when I heard Frida's SUV crunching up the gravel drive. I sat in the dark living room pretending to read a cattleman's magazine by the light of the dying fire. Through the window, I watched her sit in the vehicle for a full 5 minutes before coming in, the interior light illuminating her face as she checked something on her phone. Even from that distance, I could see her smile at whatever she was reading. When she finally came in, she was wearing a blazer I'd never seen before, black, expensive looking, tailored in a way that showed off her figure. Her hair was done up nice, too nice for showing ranch property in the wind. "Hey," she said, stopping when she saw me. "Why are you sitting in the dark?" "Couldn't sleep. How'd the showing go?" "Good. Great, actually. I think they're going to make an offer." She moved through the room like she was walking on eggshells, heading for the stairs. "That's a nice blazer. New?" She froze, hand on the banister. "Oh, this? No, I've had it forever. Just haven't worn it in a while." Lies always sound different than truth if you're listening close enough. They have a tinny quality, like a bell that's cracked. "Huh? Don't remember it." "Well, you don't exactly pay attention to my clothes, Ansel." There was an edge to her voice, defensive and sharp. "I pay attention to you." She softened at that, came over and kissed the top of my head. "I know you do. I'm sorry, I'm just tired. Long day." Her lips were cold, and she smelled wrong. Not cologne this time, but cigarette smoke, which was strange because Frida hadn't smoked since before Georgia was born. And underneath that, something else, fried food, maybe, or beer. Not the kind of smells you pick up showing ranch property. "I'm gonna shower and head to bed," she said, already moving away. "You coming up?" "In a bit." I sat there in the dark for another hour, the magazine forgotten in my lap, trying to make sense of what didn't want to make sense. My wife was lying to me. That much was clear as mountain water. But why? And about what? The next morning, I did something I'm not proud of. While Frida was in the shower and the girls were doing their morning chores, I looked at our joint credit card statement online. Just a quick check, I told myself, just to ease my mind. But there it was, like a slap in the face, $180 at the Blue Marlin, Denver. Dated 3 days ago, Sunday afternoon, when she'd said she was showing houses in Cheyenne. Denver was 2 hours away. The Blue Marlin was a high-end seafood place, the kind where they didn't put prices on the menu because if you had to ask, you couldn't afford it. My hands shook as I closed the laptop. There had to be an explanation. There always was with Frida. She was quick on her feet, always had a story ready. I waited until after the girls left for school to bring it up. Frida was at the kitchen table, laptop open, working on listings. She looked beautiful in the morning light, and for a moment, I almost didn't say anything. Almost let it slide. Let us keep pretending everything was fine. "Hey, honey," I said, casual as I could manage. "Noticed a charge on the credit card I didn't recognize." "The Blue Marlin in Denver?" She looked up, and I watched her process surprise, calculation, decision, all in the space of a heartbeat. "Oh, that," she laughed, bright and easy. "I can't believe I forgot to tell you. Remember that client from Colorado I mentioned? David Patterson? He insisted on taking me to lunch after I drove all the way to Denver to show him some comparable properties. I tried to pay, but he wouldn't hear of it, so I put it on our card. The company's reimbursing me. I've got the paperwork right here somewhere." She made a show of shuffling through papers, finally producing an email that did indeed mention a David Patterson and a meeting in Denver. "See? All above board. I should have mentioned it, but things have been so crazy." I looked at the email, at her earnest face, at the morning sun making her wedding ring sparkle. I wanted to believe her. God, how I wanted to. "No problem," I said. "Just surprised me is all. You know I'd never spend that kind of money without talking to you first." She came around the table, wrapped her arms around me from behind. "We're a team, remember?" "Yeah, we're a team. But teams don't lie to each other, and teams sure as hell don't have secret phones. That's right. I haven't mentioned the phone yet, have I?" That discovery came a few days later, courtesy of Georgia's sharp eyes and Ruby's inability to mind her own business. It was a Saturday morning day. I was out in the barn teaching Ruby how to properly clean tack, a skill she'd been avoiding learning with impressive creativity. Georgia was supposed to be studying but had come out to watch, claiming she needed fresh air for her brain. "Dad," Georgia said, perched on a hay bale, "does Mom have two phones?" I stopped mid-polish on the saddle. "What? No, why would she? I saw a pink phone case in her purse yesterday when she asked me to grab her wallet, but her phone has a black case." Ruby's head popped up from the bridle she was conditioning. "I saw that too. When we were at the store, she got a text and pulled out a different phone, then put it away real quick when she saw me looking." My girls. Observant as hawks and twice as sharp. "Maybe it's a work phone?" I suggested, though my gut was already twisting. Georgia shook her head. "Her real estate company doesn't provide work phones. I know because she complained about it last month, remember? Said they should pay for part of her phone bill if they expected her to use it for business." The tack room suddenly felt too small, the air too thick. "Don't worry about it," I told them, forcing my voice steady. "Probably just a loaner or something while hers gets fixed." But they exchanged looks, my daughters, too smart for their own good and too young to be dealing with this shit. That night, while Frida was in the shower, she took long showers lately, 45 minutes minimum, I did another thing I'm not proud of. I checked her purse. Her regular phone was there, black case, plugged into the charger on her nightstand like always. But there was no pink case, no second phone. Either she'd hidden it better, or she had it with her in the bathroom. Who takes a phone into the shower? Someone with secrets, that's who. I sat on the edge of our bed, head in my hands, trying to make sense of it all. This wasn't the Frida I married. That woman had been open as the prairie sky, honest as summer rain. We'd built a life on trust, on partnership, on, "You okay, honey?" I looked up. She stood in the bathroom doorway, towel wrapped around her, water still beating on her shoulders. Beautiful, familiar, strange, just tired. "You worked too hard." She came over, ran her fingers through my hair. "Maybe we should take a vacation. Just the two of us. Somewhere warm." Maybe. I could look into it. There are some great deals to Mexico right now. Mexico. With what money? The money she thought we didn't have. We'll see. She kissed my forehead and I closed my eyes, trying to remember when everything had gotten so complicated. When did I stop being enough? When did she start needing whatever it was she was looking for in Denver restaurants and secret phones? A few days later, I was mending fence in the south pasture when my phone rang. It was my mother. "Mijo, you need to explain something to me." "What's that, Ma? Why am I getting cell phone bills sent to your house?" My blood went cold. "What?" "A bill from ATANT. Has my name on it, but sent to your address. I don't have ATANT. I've got that jitterbug phone you got me for Christmas, and that's Verizon." "Must be a mistake?" "It's no mistake. It's got my social security number on it. Someone opened a phone line in my name. I set down my fencing pliers, my mind racing. Ma, don't worry about it. I'll handle it. Ansel Rodriguez, if someone's stealing my identity. I said I'll handle it. Can you bring me the bill? Already on my way? 20 minutes later, my mother's old Buick was kicking up dust down our drive. She handed me the bill through the window, her expression stern. This better not be what I think it is. I looked at the bill. One line, smartphone with data plan, opened 3 months ago. The number wasn't familiar, but there were hundreds of texts and calls to a single 512 area code. That was Austin, Texas. I'll take care of it, Ma. She studied me for a long moment. That wife of yours? Ma. I'm just saying, mijo. A woman who'd use her mother-in-law's name for, whatever this is. That's not a woman who respects family. I said I'll handle it. She reached out, squeezed my hand. Your father would want you to remember the code. Family honor means something. I know. Betrayal has consequences. I know, Ma. She drove off, leaving me standing in the drive with a phone bill that felt heavy as a branding iron. My wife had committed fraud, used my mother's identity to hide. What? An affair? That Texas number burned into my brain. I pulled out my phone, stared at it for a full minute, then dialed. It rang 4 times before a man's voice answered. Hey, darling, that you? I hung up. My hands were shaking. My chest felt tight. Some stranger in Texas was calling my wife darling and expecting her call. I drove back to the house on autopilot, the bill tucked in my jacket pocket like evidence at a crime scene, which I guess it was. The girls were at school. Frida was at work, or so she said. The house was empty, quiet except for the ticking of the grandfather clock in the hallway. I sat at the kitchen table where we'd shared 18 years of meals, 18 years of conversations, 18 years of what I thought was truth. I spread the bill out in front of me, studying it like it might reveal its secrets if I stared hard enough. There were patterns in the calls, late nights mostly, early mornings sometimes, lunch hours, times when I was out working, when the girls were at school, when she thought no one was paying attention. My phone rang. Frida. Hey, honey, just wanted to let you know I might be late again tonight, showing that big property out by Thunder Basin. Okay? You all right? You sound strange. I'm fine. Okay, love you. Yeah. I hung up, looked at the clock. 2:47 p.m. Then I looked at the bill. There was a call to the Texas number at 2:45 p.m. She was calling him right now. Right this second, probably. Sitting in her car somewhere, talking to whoever answered with, Hey, darling. I stood up so fast the chair fell over backwards. I had to move, had to do something, or I was going to explode. I headed for the barn, for the physical work that had always cleared my head. But even mucking stalls couldn't quiet the storm in my chest. Every forkful of shit felt like a metaphor for my life. Here I was, cleaning up messes while my wife was out there making them. The code. My father's voice in my head, clear as if he was standing beside me. The family code. Betrayal has consequences. But first, I needed proof. Real proof. Not just suspicions and phone bills. I needed to know exactly what I was dealing with before I made any moves. Because if Frida was cheating on me and Lord help me, it was looking more and more like she wasn't just betraying me. She was betraying our daughters. She was betraying the family code. She was betraying everything we'd built. And that kind of betrayal? Well, that demanded a reckoning. I finished in the barn and headed back to the house, the late afternoon sun casting long shadows across the yard. In the distance, storm clouds were building over the mountains, dark and promising violence. Fitting, I thought. A storm was coming, all right. I just didn't know yet how bad it would get. Chapter 3. April arrived with all the subtlety of a bull in a china shop. One day it was winter. The next, the prairie was coming alive with green shoots and wildflowers. It should have been a time of renewal, of hope. Instead, it felt like watching a beautiful lie paint itself across the landscape. It was a Saturday morning when everything shifted from suspicion to certainty. Clara had come by again, this time waving another phone bill like a flag of war. This is getting out of hand, mijo, she said, marching into my kitchen without preamble. The girls were out Georgia at her SAT prep class, Ruby at a friend's house. Frida was supposedly showing properties in Laramie. Another bill? I took it from her. noting the charges had gone up. More data, more texts, more calls to that same Texas number. I went to the Atant store, Clara said, settling into a kitchen chair with the authority of a judge taking the bench. Showed them this bill, demanded answers. You know what they told me? I shook my head, though I could guess. Someone used my driver's license and social security number to open this account, in person, at their Cheyenne store. Her dark eyes bored into mine. Now, I haven't been to that store ever, so who has access to my personal information and looks enough like me to pass? We both knew the answer. Frida had helped Clara set up her cable service last year, had all her information from that. And while Clara was 70 and silver-haired, she and Frida were both Hispanic women of similar height and build. In a busy store, with a harried clerk, it wouldn't be hard to pass. Don't you mommy, Ansel Rodriguez. Your wife is using my identity to hide an affair. That's fraud. That's a felony. She stopped, seeing my face. Aye, mijo, you already knew. I suspected. Suspecting and knowing are two different things. She reached across the table, took my hand. What are you going to do? I need proof. You have proof. You have the bills. I need more. I need to know who he is, what she's planning. I pulled my hand away, ran it through my hair. I need to understand why. Clara made that sound she made, half sympathy, half frustration. Why doesn't matter? Betrayal is betrayal. It matters to me. She stood, smoothed her skirt. Your father would have handled this already. I'm not Dad. No, she agreed. Miguel would have confronted her the moment he found out. But you're smarter than he was in some ways, more patient. She moved to the door, then turned back. But don't wait too long, mijo. The girls deserve better than growing up in a house built on lies. After she left, I sat with the new bill, studying it like a map to buried treasure. Or buried bodies. The call patterns were escalating, multiple calls a day now, long conversations late at night. The last one was at 2:34 a.m. 3 nights ago, lasting 47 minutes. I remembered that night. Frida had said she couldn't sleep, was going to watch TV downstairs so she wouldn't wake me. I'd been grateful for the consideration. Fool. I picked up my phone, stared at it, then dialed the Texas number. Hello? The voice was different this time, cautious. Is this? I scrambled for a name, any name. Tom? No, this is Rembrandt. Who's this? Rembrandt. What kind of name was Rembrandt? Sorry, wrong number. I mumbled and hung up. Rembrandt. Now he had a name. Her lover had a name, and it was fucking Rembrandt. I was still processing this when I heard a car in the drive. Not Frida's SUV, Georgia's little Honda. But it was too early for her to be back from SAT prep. She came in looking shaken, and behind her was Ruby, who should have been across town at her friend's house. Dad? Georgia's voice was small. We need to talk to you. They sat at the kitchen table, my daughters, looking older than their years and younger at the same time. I wasn't at SAT prep, Georgia admitted. I was following Mom. Georgia. Just listen, Dad, please. She took a breath. I've been watching her for weeks. The lying, the secret phone, the way she sneaks around, I couldn't stand it anymore. So today, when she said she was going to Laramie, I followed her. Me too, Ruby piped up. Georgia picked me up. We were like spies. Where did she go? My voice sounded strange, distant. First, to that coffee shop on Grand. She met someone there, a man. Georgia pulled out her phone, showed me a picture taken through a window. Frida sitting across from a man I didn't recognize, tall, broad-shouldered, wearing what looked like expensive cowboy clothes, the kind real cowboys would laugh at. They were there for an hour, Georgia continued, holding hands across the table. Ruby added, she kissed him when they left. Not like a friend kiss, like a movie kiss. My daughters had seen their mother kiss another man. The damage of that, the betrayal of it, made my vision go red at the edges. There's more, Georgia said quietly. After he left, Mom made a phone call. I was close enough to hear some of it. She called him Rembrandt, Dad. She said she loved him. Rembrandt, the same name from my call. She said something else. Georgia's voice dropped to almost a whisper. She said you'd never find out because you were too trusting. She said you were simple. Simple. There was that word again. Ruby was crying now, quiet tears rolling down her cheeks. Why would Mom do this to us? I pulled both my girls close, held them while Ruby cried and Georgia stayed rigid with anger. This isn't your fault, I told them. None of this is your fault. We should have told you sooner, Georgia said against my shoulder. We should have... No, you girls shouldn't have to deal with any of this. I pulled back, looked at them both. I'm going to fix this. How? Ruby asked. That was the question, wasn't it? How do you fix a shattered trust? How do you rebuild when the foundation is rotten? I don't know yet, I admitted. But I need you both to keep this between us for now. Can you do that? Act normal around your mom? They nodded, my brave girls. And one more thing. This Rembrandt, did she say anything about him being family? A cousin, maybe? Georgia frowned. No, why would? Oh my God, is she going to try to bring him here? Pretend he's family? Maybe. I don't know yet. That night, Frida came home all smiles and chatter about her successful day showing properties. I watched her lie with such ease, such confidence, and felt something die inside me. This wasn't the woman I married. This was a stranger wearing my wife's face. You okay, honey? She asked, noting my silence. You seem distant. Just tired. The girls seem off too. Did something happen? They're teenagers. Everything's a drama. She laughed, that bright, false laugh I was learning to recognize. True. Hey, I was thinking I might need to go to a real estate conference next month, in Dallas. Dallas, Texas. Oh. Yeah, it's a great opportunity to network, learn about new markets. It's only for a few days. Sounds expensive. The company will cover most of it. Another lie, smooth as whiskey. And it could really help grow my business. We'll see. She frowned at my non-commitment, but didn't push. Later, when she was in the shower with her phone, I noted I made a decision. I called Rafael. My younger brother answered on the second ring. Hermano, been too long. Raf, I need your help. Something in my voice must have alerted him because his tone immediately sobered. What's wrong? Can you come by tomorrow? Early, before anyone's up? Of course. Ansel, what's... Tomorrow. I'll explain everything. He was there at 5 a.m., truck crunching up the drive in the pre-dawn darkness. I met him in the barn where we couldn't be overheard. Jesus, you look like hell, he said, taking in my appearance. I hadn't slept, hadn't shaved, probably hadn't changed clothes in 2 days. I handed him the phone bills, told him everything, the secret phone, the Texas number, Rembrandt, the girls following their mother, all of it. Raphael listened in silence, his face darkening with each revelation. When I finished, he stood and paced the barn like a caged wolf. That Pendeja! He spat. How dare she? After everything you've... He stopped, looked at me. You haven't told her about the inheritance. No. She doesn't know about WCC. No. Ansel, you have to protect yourself. The prenup, I know. We'd had Frida sign a prenuptial agreement when we married, standard in ranch families with assets. It included an infidelity clause. If either party cheated, they forfeited all claims to marital property. But first, I said, I need to know more about this Rembrandt. Can you dig into it? You're better with computers than me. Already on it. He pulled out his phone, started typing. Rembrandt what? I don't know, just Rembrandt. That's not a common name. Might make it easier. He looked up. What are you planning? I don't know yet. But when I make my move, I want all the ammunition I can get. Over the next week, Raphael turned into a one-man investigation unit. He found Rembrandt Johnson on social media, an entrepreneur from Austin who seemed to have his fingers in various failed businesses. His Facebook was full of pictures of him at bars, on boats he probably didn't own, always with a beer and a shite-eating grin. Look at this, Raphael showed me on his laptop one evening. We were in my truck, parked at the far edge of my property where no one would see us. He was in Cheyenne 2 years ago for a real estate investment seminar. Want to bet that's where he met Frida? 2 years. They'd potentially been at this for 2 years. There's more, Raphael continued. I found some court records. He was sued in 2010 for fraud, some real estate scam. Charges were dropped, but still, he's a con man. Looks like it. And now he's conning your wife. Or maybe they're conning together. The thought hadn't occurred to me, but now it seemed obvious. What if this wasn't just an affair? What if they were planning something bigger? I need to get into that phone, I said. The secret one. See what they're really saying to each other. That's risky. Everything's risky now. As it turned out, I didn't have to steal the phone. Ruby did it for me. She came to me 3 days later, the pink-cased phone in her hand, looking scared but determined. I took it from Mom's purse when she was in the garden, she said. I know I shouldn't have, but, Ruby, you could get in trouble. I don't care, her eyes flashed. She's destroying our family. I want to know why. The phone was password protected, but Ruby, bless her teenage tech savvy, had watched Frida enter it once and memorized the pattern. What we found made my blood run cold. Text after text between Frida and Rembrandt, plans to meet, declarations of love, and worse discussions about money. Once the divorce is final, we can be together properly, one of Frida's texts read. How much do you think you'll get? Rembrandt had replied. Half of everything. The house alone is worth $400K plus alimony. That's my girl. We'll be set. I scrolled further, my hands shaking. He has no idea about us, Frida had written. He's too trusting, too simple. Perfect mark, Rembrandt replied. Though I still think you should push for more. Claim emotional distress or something. After I introduce you as my cousin, we'll have more access. Trust me. Cousin. She was planning to introduce her lover as her cousin. Ruby was reading over my shoulder. Dad, she's planning to rob you. No, I said quietly. She's planning to rob us. All of us. I took pictures of everything with my phone, then had Ruby return the phone to Frida's purse. Evidence. I needed evidence, and now I had it. But I also had something else, a plan beginning to form. If Frida wanted to play games, if she wanted to treat me like a simple mark, if she wanted to introduce her lover as family, then fine. I'd play along. But I'd be playing by my rules, and my rules, the rules my father taught me, the frontier honor that ran in our blood, those rules said that betrayal had consequences, and Frida was about to learn exactly what those consequences were. Chapter 4. June came in hot and dry, the kind of weather that turned the prairie grass golden and had ranchers eyeing the sky for any hint of rain. But the real storm was brewing inside our house, where everyone was pretending everything was fine while the foundations cracked beneath us. I'd gotten good at pretending, Oscar-worthy, you might say. Every morning, I kissed Frida goodbye like nothing was wrong. Every evening, I asked about her day with genuine-seeming interest. I laughed at her jokes, complimented her cooking, made love to her when she initiated it, though that was becoming rarer, thank God. Each moment of intimacy felt like swallowing broken glass. The girls were struggling more with the charade. Georgia had developed a twitch in her left eye that appeared whenever Frida told a particularly bold lie. Ruby had taken to spending most of her time in the barn with the horses, claiming she was training for junior rodeo, but really just avoiding her mother. I can't stand it, Georgia told me one evening while Frida was on another late showing. We were fixing fence, just the two of us, the setting sun painting everything gold and red. She lies so easily, Dad. How did we not see it before? Sometimes we only see what we want to see, I said, wrestling with a stubborn post. And your mom, she was good to us for a long time. That was real. Was it, though? Or was she always capable of this? I didn't have an answer for that. How well can you ever really know someone? I'd shared a bed with Frida for 18 years, and now she was a stranger. The next morning, Frida dropped her bombshell. She did it casually, over breakfast, like she was mentioning the weather. Oh, honey, I forgot to mention my cousin Rembrandt is moving to Wyoming for work. Isn't that exciting? I paused with my coffee cup halfway to my lips, playing the part of mildly surprised husband. Cousin Rembrandt? From Texas. Second cousin, actually, on my father's side. You've never met him. He's been living in Austin for years. Ruby choked on her orange juice. George's eye twitched. That's sudden, I managed. Well, he got a job opportunity up here. Something in property development. She was washing dishes, her back to us, which made the lying easier for her. I told him he could stay with us for a few weeks while he gets settled. You don't mind, do you? The audacity of it took my breath away. She was bringing her lover into our home, under our roof, and asking my permission like it was nothing. Of course not, I heard myself say. Family's family. She turned, smiled that 1,000-watt smile that used to make my heart race. Now it made my stomach turn. You're the best. He'll be here next week. Ruby stood abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. I need to check on Daisy. She practically ran from the room. Georgia followed more slowly, but not before shooting me a look that said, How can you let this happen? But I had my reasons. Let them come. Let them think they were fooling me. I'd been building my own preparations with help from Vincent Garcia, a private investigator Monet had recommended, and Sheriff Leonardo Wilson, who'd been a friend since high school. You want me to do what now? Leo had asked when I'd laid out my plan the previous week. Just be ready, I'd said. When I call, I need you there fast. Ansel, if this is about Frida, it's about protecting my family and upholding the law. He'd studied me for a long moment, then nodded. All right, but be careful. Domestic situations can go sideways fast. Rembrandt arrived on a Thursday, driving a black pickup that was all show and no substance-lifted suspension, chrome everything, not a scratch on it, the kind of truck that had never hauled anything heavier than groceries. I was on the porch when he pulled up, deliberately placed to be the first thing he saw. I wanted him to know I was watching. He got out wearing new boots, designer jeans, and a hat that had never seen rain. Everything about him screamed fake, from his practiced swagger to his too white smile. You must be Ansel, he said, approaching with his hand extended. Heard so much about you. I'll bet you have, I thought, shaking his hand firmly, maybe too firmly, judging by his slight wince. Welcome to Wyoming, I said. Hope you're ready for real ranch life. Oh, I grew up on a ranch outside Austin. This feels like home. Lie number one. According to Raphael's research, he'd grown up in suburban Dallas and had never worked a day of manual labor in his life. Frida came rushing out, and the hug she gave him lasted 3 seconds too long for cousins. I watched from under the brim of my hat, noting how his hand lingered on her lower back, how she leaned into him just slightly. Rembrandt, how was the drive? Long but beautiful. You weren't kidding about the scenery up here. They were performing for me, but doing it badly. Real cousins who hadn't seen each other in years would have more distance, more formal politeness. These two moved around each other with the familiarity of lovers. At dinner that night, the interrogation began, not from me, from Georgia. So, Rembrandt, she said, cutting her steak with precision, tell us about the family. How exactly are you related to Mom? He paused mid-chew. Well, my mother is your mom's father's cousin. Second cousin once removed, then, Georgia corrected. Not second cousin. Right, always get that confused. What's your mother's name? Georgia pressed. Frida interjected quickly. Georgia, honey, don't interrogate our guest. I'm just curious about family I've never heard of. Georgia's tone was innocent, but her eyes were sharp. What was Grandpa Roberto's cousin's name again, Mom? Frida's jaw tightened. Maria. Maria what? Maria Johnson. She married a Johnson, obviously. Obviously, Georgia repeated. And where is Maria now, Rembrandt? She, passed a few years back. I'm sorry for your loss. What did she die of? The table had gone silent except for this back and forth. Ruby was pushing food around her plate. I was watching it all unfold like a slow-motion car wreck. Cancer, Rembrandt said finally. What kind? Georgia, enough, Frida snapped. This is inappropriate dinner conversation. I'm just trying to get to know our cousin, Georgia said with false sweetness, since he's living with us and all. Later, after Rembrandt had retired to the guest room and Frida was taking one of her marathon showers, I found Georgia in her room, furiously typing on her laptop. There's no Maria Johnson in Mom's family tree, she said without looking up. I've been building it on Ancestry.com for a school project. There's no Rembrandt Johnson either. I know. He's lying about everything. They both are. I know. She finally looked at me. Then why are you letting him stay here? Because sometimes, sweetheart, You have to let people reveal themselves fully before you can act. Your grandpa taught me that. Grandpa would have kicked his ass already. Language. But it's true. Maybe. But your grandpa also taught me about patience, about choosing your moment. She closed her laptop. When will the moment be, Dad? Soon. That night I couldn't sleep. Around midnight I heard footsteps in the hallway, soft, careful, trying not to wake anyone. I crept to the door, peered through the crack. Frida and Rembrandt were in the hallway, standing close, whispering. I couldn't hear the words, but I could see their body language, his hand on her arm, her looking up at him. The space between them charged with electricity. Then they moved toward the stairs, and I followed, silent as a ghost in my own home. They went to the living room, where dying embers in the fireplace provided the only light. I positioned myself where I could see but not be seen, and what I witnessed next burned itself into my memory. They kissed, not a cousin kiss, not a friendly kiss. A deep, passionate kiss that spoke of practice and familiarity. His hands tangled in her hair, her arms around his neck, my wife, in our home, with our children sleeping upstairs. I pulled out my phone, careful to silence it first, and took a photo. Evidence for Monet, for the divorce, for the fraud case we were building. They broke apart finally, and I heard Frida whisper, "We have to be careful. Just a few more weeks." "I hate this," Rembrandt murmured, pretending. "After Frontier Days. We'll make our move after Frontier Days." "You sure he doesn't suspect?" "Ansel? No. He's—" She paused, and even in the darkness I could see her cruel smile. "He's exactly what we thought. Simple. Trusting. He has no idea what's coming." I retreated to my room before they could discover me, my heart pounding with rage and hurt in equal measure. Simple. Trusting. What's coming? They had plans for Frontier Days. Well, what a coincidence. So did I. The next morning I made my own announcement at breakfast. "Got some news," I said, buttering my toast with studied casualness. "WCC asked me to present at the Frontier Days rodeo finals, stand in for the regional manager who's sick." Frida looked up, surprised. "Present what?" "The championship buckle. Apparently, being a longtime employee has its perks." I smiled at her. "I'd like the whole family there. VIP seats and everything. You too, Rembrandt. Should be quite a show." "That's wonderful, honey." Frida's enthusiasm seemed genuine for once. Maybe she was happy I'd be distracted while she executed whatever plan she had. "Wouldn't miss it," Rembrandt said. But I caught him exchanging a quick glance with Frida. "Good. It's the final Saturday, July 26th. Mark your calendars." I stood, kissed Frida on the cheek, the same cheek that had pressed against Rembrandt's the night before, and headed out to work. In the barn, I called Monet. "It's time," I said. "July 26th. Frontier Days." "You're sure?" "They're planning something for that day, too. I heard them talking." "All right. I'll have everything ready. Divorce papers, fraud charges, the works. And Monet? Make sure the prenup is ironclad. I want her to get nothing. Based on the evidence you've provided, she won't get a penny." Next, I called Leo. "July 26th, I said. Frontier Days. Can you have deputies there?" "How many do you need?" "Enough to arrest 2 people for fraud." "Jesus, Ansel, you're really doing this?" "They brought it into my home, Leo. They're planning to rob me blind and destroy my family. So yeah, I'm doing this." "All right, we'll be there." Finally, I called Vincent, the private investigator. "I need you at Frontier Days with a camera," I said. "I want everything documented." "You got it, boss." Boss. Because that's what I was, really. The boss of a cattle empire worth billions. The boss who everyone thought was just a simple rancher. Time to show them all how wrong they were. That evening, I found Ruby in the barn with Daisy, brushing the mare's coat until it shined. "You okay, baby girl?" She didn't look at me. "Mom and Rembrandt went to town together today. Said they were getting supplies, but they were gone 3 hours. How long does it take to buy groceries?" "Ruby, I hate him, Dad. I hate how he looks at her. I hate how she looks at him. I hate that he's in our house, eating our food, pretending to be family." I put my arm around her. "It won't be for much longer." "Promise?" "Promise. After Frontier Days, everything changes." "Good." She leaned against me. Dad? Whatever you're planning, I hope it hurts them. I hope it hurts them like they're hurting us. I didn't answer, just held my daughter while she cried angry tears into my shirt. But inside, I made a silent promise. It would hurt them. Maybe not physically, but in every other way that mattered. Their reputations, their freedom, their futures, all of it was about to come crashing down. They thought I was simple. They were about to learn that simple men can deliver complex justice. They thought I was trusting. They were about to discover that trust, once broken, becomes something else entirely. They thought they knew what was coming. They didn't have a clue. Frontier Days was 8 days away. 8 more days of pretending, of watching them sneak around my home, of protecting my daughters from the worst of it. 8 more days until the masks came off all of them. 8 more days until everyone learned what happened when you betrayed a Rodriguez. 8 more days until the whole world knew the truth. I stood in the barn as the sun set, looking out at the land my father had left me, the empire built on honor and hard work and trust. Frida and Rembrandt thought they could take it from me with lies and schemes. They were about to learn why we called it frontier justice. Chapter 5. June in Wyoming can fool you. The mornings start cool enough to need a jacket, but by noon the sun beats down like it's trying to make up for the long winter. That June of 2014 with Rembrandt Johnson living under my roof, every day felt like walking through a furnace not from the heat, but from the rage I had to swallow with my morning coffee. It had been a week since the fake cousin moved in, and he'd already made himself at home. Too much at home. I found him that morning lounging on my porch, boots up on the railing I'd built with my own hands, sipping coffee from my favorite mug, the one Georgia had made me in 7th grade pottery class. "Morning, Ansel," he drawled, not bothering to move his feet. "Beautiful day for ranch work." "Every day's a work day on a ranch," I replied, keeping my voice level. "Speaking of which, you mentioned you grew up on one. Want to help move the cattle to the north pasture?" His boots came down real quick. "Oh, I would, but I've got some calls to make. Business stuff, you know. Business stuff." Right. The only business this man had was the business of screwing other men's wives. Inside, Frida was humming in the kitchen, making breakfast like we were one big, happy family. She'd been extra cheerful since Rembrandt arrived, cooking elaborate meals, laughing at his stories about Texas that changed every time he told them. Last night, he'd claimed he'd worked a ranch outside Austin. This morning, it was outside Houston. The man couldn't keep his lies straight, but Frida hung on every word like gospel. Georgia sat at the kitchen table, homework spread out even though school was done for the summer. She was taking online college prep courses, always the overachiever. But I knew she was really there to observe, to gather intelligence. My daughter had become my unwitting ally in this war. "Morning, Dad," she said, looking up from her laptop. "Mr. Johnson was just telling us about Uncle Jorge's famous barbecue back in Texas. Funny, I don't remember Mom ever mentioning an Uncle Jorge." The kitchen went quiet. Frida's humming stopped. Rembrandt cleared his throat. "Well, Jorge was more of a distant relative," he fumbled. "You know how big families are hard to keep track of everyone." "Is that so?" George's voice was sweet as honey, dangerous as a rattlesnake. "What was his last name? I'm working on our family tree for my college applications. I'd love to add him." Frida turned from the stove, spatula in hand, her smile tight. "Georgia, honey, don't interrogate our guest." "I'm not interrogating. I'm just interested in family." Georgia's eyes never left Rembrandt's face. After all, if he's our cousin, his family is our family, right? Ruby chose that moment to stomp in, still in her pajamas, hair a wild mess. "I'm not calling him cousin," she announced. "He doesn't even know Grandma Esperanza's name. He called her Maria yesterday." "Ruby." Frida's voice cracked like a whip. "What? It's true. Ask him what year she died. Bet he doesn't know that either." Rembrandt stood up, his chair scraping against the floor. "I think I'll take that coffee outside." After he left, Frida rounded on the girls. "You two need to show some respect." "Respect for what?" Ruby shot back. "For lies?" "Ruby Rodriguez, go to your room." "Fine. At least it doesn't smell like fake cologne up there." She stormed out, leaving Georgia and me with Frida. The silence stretched taut as fence wire. "I should check on the horses," I said, standing. "Ansel." Frida's voice stopped me. "Can't you talk to them? They're being impossible." I turned, looked at my wife, really looked at her. She wore a new sundress, her hair done up nice even though it was barely 8 in the morning. She'd put on makeup, too, for him. "They're being honest," I said quietly. "Maybe you should try it sometime." I left before she could respond, but I heard Georgia mutter, "Burn," under her breath. Out in the barn, I found Raphael waiting for me. He'd parked his truck behind the hay shed where it couldn't be seen from the house. Smart man, my brother. "Got more information on your house guest," he said without preamble, pulling out a folder. "You're going to want to sit down for this." We climbed up to the hayloft, where we could talk without being overheard. Raphael spread out papers on a hay bale printouts from websites, court documents, even what looked like mugshots. "Rembrandt Johnson, real name Robert Jeremy Johnson. The Rembrandt thing is just pretentious bullshit he adopted about 5 years ago." Raphael pointed to a document. "Born in Dallas, suburban kid. Never worked a ranch in his life unless you count a petting zoo birthday party." "What else?" "Oh, it gets better, or worse, depending on how you look at it." He pulled out another paper. "Arrested in 2010 for real estate fraud. He and a partner were selling properties they didn't own, taking deposits from multiple buyers for the same houses. Charges were dropped when his partner took the fall, but the word is, Rembrandt rolled on him for immunity. A rat and a fraud." My fists clenched. "And he's sleeping in my house." "There's more." Raphael's expression darkened. "I found something interesting. Hotel records from the Marriott in Denver dated 3 days ago. A Mr. and Mrs. Johnson checked in for the night, paid cash. 3 days ago, when Frida had supposedly been showing properties in Laramie. They're getting bolder," I said, my voice rough. "Or more desperate. Ansel, I also found this." He showed me a printout from a realtor forum. "Rembrandt's been asking around about property laws in Wyoming, specifically about what happens to jointly owned property in a divorce." The blood in my veins turned to ice. "They're planning to take the ranch. Looks like it. Good thing they don't know about the real money?" "Yeah." I stood, pacing the narrow loft. "But even our ranch alone is worth enough to set them up nice. 400,000 at least." "What are you going to do?" I looked out the loft window at my house, my land, my life that these two parasites were trying to steal. "I'm going to let them think they're winning," I said. "Right up until I destroy them." That evening proved to be more challenging than usual. I was helping Ruby with her barrel racing practice when Georgia came running to the arena, face flushed with urgency. "Dad, you need to come back. Now." We hurried to the house, Ruby leading her horse behind us. Through the living room window, I could see them, Frida and Rembrandt, on the porch swing, sitting too close, their heads bent together in intimate conversation. "I was going to tell them dinner's ready," Georgia whispered. But then I heard. We crept closer, staying hidden behind the lilac bushes Frida had planted our first year here. Their voices carried on the evening air. "Can't keep this up much longer," Frida was saying. "The girls are suspicious. Just a few more days, darling. After Frontier Days, we'll have what we need." "You're sure the property transfer will work?" "Trust me, once you file for divorce claiming emotional abuse and neglect, no judge will deny you half of everything. Maybe more if we play it right. Emotional abuse. Neglect." The words hit like physical blows. "I never wanted to hurt him," Frida said softly, and for a moment I heard the woman I'd married in her voice. "But I can't live like this anymore, Rem. I need more than this simple life." "You deserve more," Rembrandt murmured, and I saw him stroke her cheek. "Once you get your share, we'll move to Denver, maybe California, anywhere but this dusty nowhere." Georgia grabbed my arm, her nails digging in. Ruby made a sound like a wounded animal. I put my arms around both my girls, holding them as we witnessed their mother planning our destruction. "Dad," Ruby whispered, tears streaming down her face. "She called our home nowhere." Just then the front door opened. "Frida, you out here?" It was Rembrandt, but he was coming from inside the house, which meant we all turned. The man on the swing with Frida was Rembrandt, but if he'd been inside. Yeah, just getting some air, Frida called back, scooting away from him on the swing. Georgia's eyes went wide with realization. She knew we were watching. She staged that whole conversation. But I'd seen the way she'd leaned into him before she knew we were there. The staged part was the distance, not the closeness. Everyone inside for dinner, I said, loud enough for them to hear. Now. Dinner was a special kind of torture. Frida had made pot roast my favorite, or it used to be. Now it tasted like sawdust. Rembrandt told another story about his fictional ranch experience, this time claiming he'd broken wild mustangs in Nevada. That's interesting, I said, cutting my meat with deliberate precision. What method did you use? The Jeffrey method? Natural horsemanship? Oh, you know, bit of everything. He waved his fork vaguely. Must have been before 1971 then, Georgia chimed in. That's when the Wild Free-Roaming Horses and Burros Act was passed. It's illegal to capture wild mustangs now without federal permission. Rembrandt's face flushed. Right, yeah, it was. A while ago. You must have been a child prodigy, Georgia continued. Since you're only 40 now, and that was over 40 years ago. Georgia, enough, Frida snapped. I'm just interested in Cousin Rembrandt's fascinating life story, Georgia said innocently. Tomorrow maybe he can tell us about the time he wrestled alligators in Alaska. Ruby snorted into her mashed potatoes. Even I had to fight back a smile. Rembrandt stood abruptly. I need some air. After he left, Frida turned on us. This stops now. All of it. What stops? I asked calmly. Having dinner conversation? You know what I mean. The hostility, the suspicion. Rembrandt is family, and no, he's not. Ruby's voice was flat, adult. He's not family. He's a liar. And so are you. The slap happened so fast I almost missed it. 1 second Ruby was talking. The next Frida's hand was connecting with her cheek. The sound echoed through the kitchen like a gunshot. Ruby didn't cry. She just stood, touched her reddening cheek, and looked at her mother with eyes that held nothing but contempt. I hate you, she said quietly and walked out. Georgia followed her sister. Frida and I stood facing each other across the kitchen table, the space between us feeling like miles of scorched earth. She pushed me too far, Frida said, but her voice shook. No, I said. You pushed. You've been pushing since you brought him here. You pushed when you lied. You pushed when you stole from my mother. You pushed when you chose him over us. I didn't. Save it. I turned to leave, then stopped. Touch either of my daughters again, and Rembrandt will be the least of your problems. That night I couldn't sleep. Around midnight I heard them again, footsteps in the hallway, whispers, the soft click of a door. But this time I didn't follow. I'd seen enough. Instead, I got up and went to my office, where I'd hidden a safe behind a false panel in the wall. Inside were the deeds to our properties, bank statements, the real ones showing the WCC accounts, and a copy of our prenup with the infidelity clause highlighted in yellow. I also pulled out a new edition, a voice recorder I'd bought in town. Starting tomorrow, I'd be recording every conversation, every lie, every admission. Wyoming was a one-party consent state for recordings. As long as I was part of the conversation, it was legal. My phone buzzed. A text from Vincent Garcia, the private investigator. Got photos of subject entering room 237 at Marriott Denver with the woman. Time-stamped and verified. I smiled grimly. Another nail in the coffin. The next morning, I made a call to our bank while Frida was in the shower, and Rembrandt was still sleeping off whatever he'd been drinking on my porch until 2 a.m. I need to freeze the joint account, I told the manager. Suspected fraudulent activity. Of course, Mr. Rodriguez. We'll need you to come in and sign some papers. I'll be there this afternoon. Next, I called our credit card companies, putting alerts on all our cards. If Frida and Rembrandt were planning something for Frontier Days, they wouldn't be financing it with my money. I was just finishing up when Georgia appeared in the doorway. Dad, Ruby won't come out of her room. She says she's never talking to Mom again. Give her time, sweetheart. Dad. Georgia's voice broke. Why doesn't Mom love us anymore? I pulled my daughter into my arms, feeling her shake with silent sobs. She does love you. In her broken way, she does. But sometimes adults get so lost in their own wants that they forget what really matters. Like us? You and Ruby are what matter most. Never doubt that. Is that why you're letting this happen? Letting him stay here? I pulled back, looked into my daughter's two wise eyes. What do you mean? I'm not stupid, Dad. I know you know. I can see it in how you watch them. You're planning something, aren't you? I considered lying, but my daughter deserved better. Yes. Good. Her voice was steel. I want to help. Georgia. No, Dad. She's hurt Ruby. She's destroying our family. I want to help. I studied my 17-year-old daughter, seeing the woman she was becoming. Strong, fierce, loyal. Okay, I said finally, but we do this my way, legal and proper. Deal. That afternoon, while I was supposedly checking fence lines, I met with Sheriff Leonardo Wilson at a diner in town. Leo was an old friend, the kind who'd help you bury a body if needed, but would also arrest you for it because the law was the law. I need you ready for Frontier Days, I told him over coffee. There's going to be a situation. What kind of situation? I laid out the basics, the fraud, the affair, my plans for a public revelation. Leo whistled low. That's quite a show you're planning. They brought it on themselves. What do you need from me? Deputies on standby. Rembrandt probably has warrants in Texas, and if things go sideways. We'll be there. Leo studied me. You sure you want to do it this public? It's going to be messy. They made it messy when they decided to con me in my own home. At least this way, everyone knows the truth. No room for lies or manipulation later. Your call. But Ansel, be careful. Cornered animals do desperate things. That evening, I came home to find Rembrandt trying to help with the evening feeding. Trying being the operative word. He couldn't even hold a pitchfork right, fumbling with it like it was some alien technology. Here, I said, taking it from him. Like this. You said you worked ranches, right? Yeah, well, we did things different in Texas. Show me. He took the pitchfork back, tried to copy what I'd shown him, but ended up spreading more hay on himself than in the stall. Must have been some interesting ranches, I said dryly. His face reddened. Look, I don't have to prove anything to you. No, I agreed. You don't, but a real cowboy wouldn't have to try. I left him there, covered in hay and humiliation. Small victories, but I'd take them where I could get them. Inside, I found Frida packing a bag. Going somewhere? I asked. Denver. Client meeting tomorrow. I'll be back by evening. Taking Rembrandt? Why would I take my cousin to a business meeting? Her lie came so easily, like breathing. Just wondering. Seems like you two have been spending a lot of time together. He's family, Ansel. Family spends time together. Funny. You never mentioned him before he showed up. She zipped the bag with unnecessary force. I don't tell you everything. No, I agreed. You certainly don't. She looked at me then, really looked at me, and for a moment I saw something flicker in her eyes. Guilt? Fear? Recognition that I knew more than I was saying? But then it was gone, replaced by that bright, false smile. Don't wait up. After she left Rembrandt, mysteriously deciding to go to town at the same time, I sat with my daughters on the porch. The sunset painted the sky in shades of pink and gold, beautiful and ominous at the same time. 4 more days, Ruby said quietly. Until what? I asked, though I knew. Until Frontier Days, until you make them pay. I didn't deny it. My girls had figured out enough. Will Mom go to jail? Georgia asked. Maybe, probably. Good, Ruby said, her voice hard. She deserves it. Ruby, no, Dad, she does. She brought him here. She's planning to steal from us. She hit me. She deserves whatever's coming. We sat in silence, watching the stars come out one by one. In the distance, a coyote howled, lonely and defiant. Whatever happens, I said finally, we're going to be okay. The 3 of us. We're going to survive this. Georgia leaned against my shoulder. Ruby took my hand. We know, Dad, Georgia said. We've got each other. That's all that matters. 4 more days. 4 more days of pretending, of swallowing rage, of watching them scheme and whisper and plan. 4 more days until the masks came off and everyone saw the truth. I could make it 4 more days. I had to. Chapter 6. The pre-dawn of July 22nd found me wide awake, sitting at my kitchen table with a cup of coffee that had gone cold an hour ago. Spread before me like battle plans were documents, photos, printed emails, all the evidence I'd gathered over the past months. In the center, circled in red ink on a calendar, was July 26th. Frontier Days, D-Day. The house was quiet except for the grandfather clock's steady ticking. Rembrandt was snoring in the guest room. I could hear him from here, the sound grating like a rusty gate. Frida had come home late from her client meeting in Denver, slipping into bed reeking of wine and that same expensive cologne. She hadn't even tried to shower first. The contempt of it, the sheer arrogance made my jaw clench even now. I picked up my notebook, reviewing the plan I'd sketched out. Step 1. The public exposure at the rodeo maximum witnesses. No room for denial. Step 2. Reveal my true identity as owner of WCC. Show her what she's lost. Step 3. Legal action, immediate filing. No time for them to hide assets or run. The logistics were trickier. I needed everything to flow perfectly, like a river cutting through canyon rock, natural, inevitable, devastating. My phone buzzed. Text from Vincent Garcia. Subject meeting with lawyer downtown yesterday. Overheard discussing division of assets and emotional distress claims. Photos attached. I opened the images. There was Frida, sitting across from some slick-suited lawyer type, papers spread between them. Divorce papers, no doubt. She was making her move, thinking she had the upper hand. Let her think that. The sun was just starting to paint the horizon pink when I heard footsteps. Georgia, already dressed for the day, her face set with determination. Couldn't sleep either? She asked, pouring herself coffee. My little girl, drinking coffee like an adult. When had that happened? Too much on my mind. She sat across from me, eyes scanning the documents. Is this all of it? All the evidence? Most of it. She picked up a photo of Frida and Rembrandt entering the hotel in Denver. How long were you going to wait before doing something if they hadn't moved in together? It was a good question. I don't know. Maybe forever. Maybe I would have just lived with it. Why? Because I loved her. Part of me still does, I guess. The woman she used to be, anyway. Georgia was quiet for a moment. I don't think she ever was that woman, Dad. I think she was just better at pretending before. From the mouths of babes, indeed. I need to show you something, Georgia said, pulling out her phone. She scrolled through it, then handed it to me. I recorded this yesterday when you were in town. I hit play. Frida's voice filled the kitchen, tinny through the phone speaker. Don't care what happens to him after. Once I get my half, we can go anywhere. The girls, they'll understand eventually. Kids are resilient. Then Rembrandt. What if they want to stay with him? Let them. Easier for us, really. We can start fresh. My hand shook. She was planning to abandon not just me, but our daughters. I'm sorry, Dad, Georgia whispered. Don't be. You did right. I handed back the phone. Can you send me that? Already did. I pulled her into a hug. You're tougher than you should have to be. Rodriguez women are made of steel, she said, quoting something my mother always said. Even if we're only Rodriguez by name. Later that morning, I drove to Monet Davis's law office. She'd cleared her schedule for me, understanding the urgency. Monet was sharp as a surgeon's scalpel and twice as precise exactly what I needed. The paperwork's ready, she said, gesturing to a thick folder. Divorce petition citing adultery, evidence attached. Motion to enforce the prenuptial agreement. Custody filing for full custody based on parental alienation and the physical assault on Ruby. She barely touched her. She struck your minor child. That's assault, Ansel. Plus, we have evidence of fraud, identity theft, and conspiracy to commit fraud. Your wife is looking at serious jail time. The weight of it settled on my shoulders. 10 years, you said? Could be. Depends on the judge whether she pleads out. But minimum 5, I'd say. 5 years. Ruby would be 20. Georgia would be through college. What about Rembrandt? The Texas warrants are real. He skipped bail on fraud charges there. Soon as Wyoming picks him up, he'll be extradited. He's looking at federal charges, too, if he encouraged or participated in the identity theft across state lines. Good. Monet studied me. You sure about the public revelation? We could do this quietly. No. They humiliated me in my own home in front of my children. They deserve the same. It'll be traumatic for the girls. It already is. At least this way, everyone knows the truth. No whisper campaigns, no rumors, just facts. She nodded. Your call. Now let's go over your statement. We spent 2 hours rehearsing what I'd say, how I'd say it. Monet was right. I needed to appear controlled, dignified, not vengeful, but righteous. It was a fine line to walk. On the drive home, I stopped by the sheriff's office. Leo was at his desk, boots up, reading a fishing magazine. 4 days, I said. I know. Got 5 deputies scheduled for Frontier Days anyway. I'll make sure they know to watch for your signal. 2 tips of the hat means move in. Got it, Ansel. He put down the magazine. You prepared for if he runs or fights? That's why I need you there. No, I mean, are you prepared, physically? Man like that, cornered, might do something stupid. I thought about it. Rembrandt was bigger than me, younger, probably stronger, but I had something he didn't, everything to lose and everything to fight for. I can handle myself. Take this anyway. Leo handed me a small canister. Pepper spray, just in case. Frontier Days gets crazy. Nobody'll think twice about you having protection. I pocketed it. Thanks. Don't thank me yet. Thank me when this is over and everyone's still breathing. Back at the ranch, I found an unexpected scene. Rembrandt was in the living room with a laptop, papers spread across the coffee table. Frida sat beside him, their heads together, whispering intently. Working hard? I asked, casual as could be. They jumped apart like guilty teenagers. Just helping Rembrandt with some business stuff, Frida said quickly, too quickly. I glanced at the papers before Rembrandt could gather them up. Property listings, land values, assessment documents. Looking to buy around here? I asked him. Maybe, if the right opportunity comes up. His smile was all teeth, no warmth. Well, land's not cheap in Wyoming. Takes most folks a lifetime to save enough. Unless they get lucky, he said, holding my gaze. Or unless they steal it, I replied evenly. The tension in the room could have been cut with a knife. Frida stood abruptly. I need to start dinner. After she left, Rembrandt and I stood facing each other. The pretense was wearing thin as tissue paper. You seem like a smart man, Ansel, he said finally. Smart enough. Then you know sometimes things change, people change, situations change. Some things don't change. Honor, loyalty, family. He laughed, short and harsh. That's a pretty speech, but honor doesn't pay bills, loyalty doesn't buy happiness. And stealing another man's wife and property does? The mask slipped completely for just a second. His eyes went hard, calculating. Then the fake smile returned. I don't know what you're implying. I'm not implying anything. I'm stating facts. You're a con man. You've been running games your whole life, but this one you're going to lose. We'll see about that. He gathered his papers and left. I stood there, fists clenched, heart pounding. The rattlesnake had shown his fangs. Good. I preferred an honest enemy to a false friend. That evening I called a family meeting, just me and the girls. We met in the barn, away from prying ears. I need you both to understand what's going to happen on Saturday, I said. You're going to expose Mom and Rembrandt, Ruby said flatly. Yes, in front of everyone. It's going to be ugly. People will stare, whisper, judge. Not just them, us too. Let them, Georgia said. We know the truth. Some people might say I'm being too harsh, that I should handle it privately. Those people didn't have their mom choose a stranger over them. Ruby's voice was bitter. Those people didn't watch their mom plan to abandon them. Ruby, no, Dad, I heard them too. Yesterday when they thought I was at practice. Mom said we'd be better off with you anyway. Said we'd cramp her new lifestyle. Christ, how much damage had these two caused? I'm sorry, baby girl. You shouldn't have heard that. But I did, and I'm glad. Now I know exactly who she really is. Georgia took her sister's hand. We're with you, Dad, whatever happens. There's one more thing. After Saturday, your mom will probably be arrested. She might go to prison. They exchanged glances. For how long? Georgia asked. Maybe 5 years? Maybe more? Ruby's jaw tightened. Good. Ruby, she's still your mother. No, a mother doesn't do what she's done. A mother doesn't choose a con man over her kids. A mother doesn't use her grandmother-in-law's identity to commit fraud. She's just Frida now. Just some woman who used to live here. The hardness in my 15-year-old's voice broke my heart. But what could I say? She wasn't wrong. That night, unable to sleep again, I walked out to the far pasture. The moon was nearly full, casting everything in silver light. I could see for miles my land, my heritage, my responsibility. My phone rang. Rafael. Hermano, you awake? Yeah. Good. Listen, I found something else. Rembrandt's been in contact with a development company in Denver. They're interested in buying ranch land for subdivision. Let me guess, our ranch? Looks like it. He's been sending them photos, property lines, even soil samples. Soil samples? From my land? Apparently. Brother, they're not just planning to take half in a divorce. They're planning to sell it all piece by piece. The fury that rose in me was cold, calculating. They weren't just trying to steal from me. They were trying to destroy everything my father built, everything I'd preserved. Thanks for letting me know. Ansel, don't do anything stupid. Nothing stupid about justice, brother. Thursday came with thunderclouds building on the horizon. Fitting, I thought. Even the sky knew a storm was coming. I spent the morning making final preparations, called my accountant, made sure all finances were locked down, called the bank, confirmed the joint account was frozen, arranged for the girls to stay with Clara after Frontier days, just in case things got messier than expected. Around noon, I found Frida in our bedroom, trying on dresses. Special occasion? I asked. Frontier days. Want to look nice for your big moment? She held up a red sundress. This one? Wear whatever you want. She turned to me, and for a moment she looked like the woman I'd married. Young, beautiful, uncertain. Ansel? Are we okay? What do you mean? I don't know. You seem distant lately. I almost laughed. Almost. Just stressed about the presentation. It's a big deal. I know. I'm proud of you. She came closer, put her hand on my chest. Maybe after Frontier days we could take that vacation. Just the two of us. Maybe. She kissed me then, soft and sweet, like she used to years ago. It took everything I had not to push her away, or worse, to fall for it one more time. I love you, she whispered. I know, I said. Because what else could I say? I love you too would be a lie. I hate you would tip my hand. She pulled back, studied my face. You do still love me, right? You're my wife, the mother of my children. It wasn't an answer, but she took it as one. Had to. The alternative would mean admitting she'd already lost. That night, the last Thursday night, we'd all live under the same roof as a family. We had dinner together. Rembrandt told stories about Frontier days in Texas, which he'd probably never attended. Frida laughed too loud at his jokes. The girls picked at their food in silence, and I counted down the hours. 48 hours until the truth. 48 hours until justice. 48 hours until freedom. The phone rang. Vincent Garcia. Mr. Rodriguez, got something you need to see. They met with another lawyer today, different firm. This one specializes in aggressive divorces, the kind where they try to prove abuse, neglect, mental cruelty. They're building a case against me. Looks like it. Want me to keep watching? No, Saturday will take care of everything. After everyone had gone to bed, I sat alone on the porch looking at the stars. Somewhere out there, my father was watching. I hoped I was making him proud. The Frontier Honor Code demanded justice for betrayal. Well, justice was coming. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. You can't prove anything. Walk away now and you can keep half. Fight us and you'll lose everything. Rembrandt. The fool had just given me written evidence of extortion. I forwarded it to Monet, then typed back, "See you at Frontier Days." Let him stew on that. Chapter 7, July 26, 2014, 5:47 a.m. I stood in my shower, water hot as I could stand it, trying to wash off the feeling of dread and anticipation that had settled on my skin like dust. Today was the day. In a few hours, everything would change. Through the bathroom window, I could see the sunrise painting the mountains purple and gold. Beautiful, peaceful, nothing like the storm that was about to break. I dressed carefully, my best jeans, the sharp black shirt Georgia had given me for Father's Day, my good boots, the ones my father had worn to important meetings. If I was going to destroy my marriage in front of 30,000 people, I was going to look respectable doing it. Downstairs, Clara was already in the kitchen. She'd arrived at dawn, knowing without being told that I'd need her. "Mijo," she said simply, handing me coffee. "Ma, you ready for this?" "No, but I'm doing it anyway." She squeezed my shoulder. "Your father would be proud, standing up for what's right, even when it costs everything." "It's already cost everything." "No, you still have your girls, your integrity, your honor. Those pendejos can't take that from you." The kitchen filled up slowly. First Georgia, dressed in her nicest summer dress, hair done up like she was going to prom. Then Ruby, wearing jeans and her favorite boots, the ones with the silver tips I'd bought her for her last birthday. Finally, Frida and Rembrandt appeared together. She wore the red sundress she'd shown me, looking beautiful in the morning light. He had on new clothes, everything crisp and clean, trying to look the part of a successful man. "Everyone excited for Frontier Days?" Frida asked brightly, like this was any other family outing. "Thrilled," Ruby muttered into her cereal. "It's going to be a beautiful day," Frida continued, oblivious or uncaring to the tension. "Perfect weather for it." "Perfect for a lot of things," I said. Rembrandt looked at me sharply, but I just smiled and sipped my coffee. We took 2 vehicles to Frontier Park. I drove my truck with the girls and Clara. Frida rode with Rembrandt in his flashy pickup, fitting I thought that they'd arrived together. The park was already packed, even this early. The smell of fried food and livestock filled the air, mixed with excitement and sunscreen. American flags flew from every pole, and country music blared from speakers. "Stay close," I told the girls as we navigated through the crowds. "Things might get interesting." "We know, Dad," Georgia said, linking her arm through mine. "We're ready." The VIP section was near the main arena, elevated to give a perfect view of the rodeo grounds. As we settled in, I spotted my allies. Vincent Garcia with his camera near the front row, Sheriff Leo and his deputies scattered strategically through the crowd, Monet Davis in the stands with a folder of legal documents. "Ansel Rodriguez." I turned to find Bob McKenzie, chairman of WCC's board, approaching with his wife. "Bob." We shook hands. "Ready for your big moment?" Not every day a regional manager gets to present the championship buckle. If only he knew how big this moment was going to be. "I'm ready." "Good man. You've been with WCC, what, 15 years now?" "Something like that. Since birth, actually, but who was counting?" "Well, you deserve this honor. Your father would be proud." My father. If Miguel Rodriguez could see what was about to happen, would he be proud? Or would he tell me to handle it quietly, privately, with dignity? No. Miguel Rodriguez believed in truth, in consequences, in justice. This was justice. The morning event started barrel racing, calf roping, bronc riding. The crowd cheered and gasped at all the right moments. I sat between my daughters, arms around them both, feeling their tension like electricity. Frida and Rembrandt sat 2 rows down, heads together, whispering and laughing. Several times I caught them looking back at me, probably wondering why I seemed so calm. Let them wonder. "Ladies and gentlemen," the announcer's voice boomed, "welcome to the final day of Cheyenne Frontier Days 2014. The crowd roared, 30,000 strong, maybe more. Before our final events, we have a special presentation from our lead sponsor, Wyoming Cattle Corporation. This was it. I stood, straightened my shirt, kissed both my daughters on the head. "I love you both," I said quietly. "Love you too, Dad," they said in unison. "Give 'em hell," Clara added with a fierce smile. I made my way down to the arena floor, boots crunching on gravel. The walk felt both endless and too quick. Vincent was already filming. Leo tipped his hat slightly ready when you are. The champion bull rider was waiting a kid named Tommy Morrison, 19 years old, grinning ear to ear despite a split lip from his ride. "Hell of a ride, son," I told him. "Thank you, sir. Hell of an honor to win here." I took the microphone from the announcer, the weight of it solid in my hand. Real. This was real. Folks, I started, my voice echoing through the massive arena. I'm Ansel Rodriguez, and it's my privilege to present this championship buckle on behalf of Wyoming Cattle Corporation. I handed Tommy the buckle solid gold, worth more than most people's cars. The crowd cheered. Cameras flashed. This was where I was supposed to step back, let the moment be about the champion. Instead, I kept the microphone. If you'll indulge me for just a moment more, I said, and the crowd quieted, curious. I'd like to say a few words about what Wyoming means to me, about family, about honor. I found Frida in the crowd. She was sitting forward now, confused. You see, folks, Wyoming has always been about two things, family and honor. Those of us who live and work this land know that trust is as vital as water, that a man's word is his bond, that betrayal. I paused, let the word hang in the air. Betrayal is the lowest form of cowardice. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. This wasn't a normal sponsor speech. I stand before you today not just as a representative of WCC, but as a man who has lived by a code passed down from my forefathers, a code that says those who betray family, who break trust, who steal and lie and cheat, they will face consequences. Now I had everyone's attention. In the VIP section, Rembrandt had stood up. Frida was grabbing his arm, her face pale. I want to introduce you all to someone special, I continued, gesturing to the VIP section. My wife, Frida Rodriguez. Stand up, darling. Let everyone see you. The spotlight found her before she could run. She stood slowly, mechanically, like a puppet on strings. And beside her, the man she's been calling her cousin from Texas, Mr. Rembrandt Johnson. Stand up, Rembrandt. He stood, chin raised defiantly, but I could see his hands shaking from here. Now, folks, here's where the story gets interesting. My voice hardened, carrying across the silent arena. That man isn't her cousin. He's her lover. The gasp from 30,000 people at once was like thunder. For 2 years, my wife has been carrying on an affair with this man. She brought him into our home, introduced him to our children as family, all while planning to rob me blind in a divorce. Frida was shaking her head frantically, mouth moving, but no one could hear her over the crowd's reaction. Boos started from somewhere in the stands, spreading like wildfire. But wait, I said, raising my hand for silence. It gets better. See, I have my own secret to share. I'm not just some regional manager for Wyoming Cattle Corporation. I removed my hat, looking directly at Frida. I own it, all of it, 500,000 acres, worth approximately $2.9 billion. The crowd exploded. Frida's legs gave out. She collapsed into her seat. Rembrandt's face went from red to white to green. My wife thought she was married to a simple rancher. She thought she could take half of a modest farm in a divorce. Instead, she just learned she betrayed one of the wealthiest men in Wyoming, and thanks to the prenuptial agreement, she signed the one with the infidelity clause. She gets nothing. I pulled out the folder Vincent had given me, holding it up. I have here photographs of them entering hotels together, text messages planning their scheme. Evidence of fraud? Yes, fraud. My wife used my elderly mother's identity to open a secret phone line for her affair. That's a felony, folks. Clara stood up in the VIP section. Shame on you, Frida. Sin vergüenza. The crowd took up the chant. Shame, shame, shame. Rembrandt tried to run then, shoving past spectators, but Leo's deputies were ready. They caught him at the exit, and when he swung at one of them, they took him down hard. The crowd cheered as they cuffed him. That man, I said, pointing to where Rembrandt was being arrested, is wanted in Texas for fraud. He's been coming after your families, your land, your wives. Well, not anymore. Frida was sobbing now, mascara running down her face in black rivers. She tried to follow Rembrandt, but was stopped by a female deputy. Ansel, please, she screamed, loud enough for the microphone to pick up. Please don't do this. I looked at her, this woman I'd loved for 18 years, and felt nothing. No anger, no satisfaction, just empty. You did this, I said into the microphone. You brought him into our home. You lied to our children. You planned to steal everything my father built. You made your choice. I turned back to the crowd. I'm sorry to have turned this celebration into something ugly, but I wanted you all to know the truth. In Wyoming, we stand by our families. We honor our commitments. And when someone betrays that trust, they face the consequences. Justice isn't always pretty, folks, but it's necessary. The crowd erupted in applause. Not everyone, some looked uncomfortable with the public drama, but most seemed to understand. This was Wyoming justice. Frontier justice. Mr. Rodriguez! I turned to find Tommy Morrison, the young bull rider, extending his hand. That took balls, sir. Real balls. We shook hands as cameras flashed, capturing the moment. The champion and the wronged husband, both warriors in their own way. I handed the microphone back to the stunned announcer and walked back to my daughters. They ran to meet me, throwing their arms around me in the middle of the arena. We're proud of you, Dad, Georgia whispered. So proud, Ruby added. Behind us, I could hear Frida screaming, begging, trying to explain to anyone who would listen, but no one was listening. She'd made her bed with a con man, and now she had to lie in it. Alone. Chapter 8. The immediate aftermath was chaos. We were escorted out through a back entrance by security, avoiding the media crush that had descended like vultures on fresh meat. Behind us, I could hear Frida's voice, shrill and desperate, trying to explain, to justify, to blame everyone but herself. That was quite a show, Leo said, meeting us at my truck. Rembrandt's in custody. Swinging at my deputy added assault charges to his plate. What about Frida? Female deputy has her. She's not under arrest yet. Monet said she'd file the formal charges Monday, but we're keeping an eye on her. Dad, look, Ruby said, holding up her phone. The video was already online. Someone had live-streamed the whole thing. The comments were pouring in. Savage. Dude just destroyed his cheating wife. That's what she gets. This is why you don't mess with cowboys. But also, this is cruel. He should have handled it privately. Those poor kids. 2 wrongs don't make a right. Don't read those, I told Ruby, taking her phone. What matters is we know the truth. We drove home in silence, Clara following in her Buick. The ranch had never looked more peaceful, more welcoming. Hard to believe that just hours ago, this had been a house of lies. Pack your bags, I told the girls. You're staying with Grandma for a few days. But Dad, just until things calm down, please. They didn't argue further. While they packed, I walked through the house, seeing it with new eyes. There was the couch where I'd caught them kissing. The kitchen table where we'd had so many tense dinners. The bedroom where Frida had slept beside me while texting another man. I started with the bedroom. Everything of Frida's went into garbage bags. Her clothes, her jewelry, her photos. 18 years of marriage reduced to black plastic bags lined up in the hallway. I kept only one thing, our wedding photo. Not for sentiment, but as a reminder. A reminder to trust but verify. To listen to my instincts. To never let anyone make a fool of me again. My phone rang. Monet. Well, that was certainly dramatic. Did it work? Oh, it worked. I've already had 3 calls from Frida's divorce lawyer begging to negotiate. They know they have nothing. What are they offering? They want to avoid criminal charges. She'll walk away with nothing, give you full custody if you don't press the fraud charges. No deal. Ansel. She committed a crime, Monet, against my mother. There are consequences. Understood, I'll file everything Monday morning. Thank you. Ansel? You did the right thing. It was messy and public and painful, but it was right. Was it? As I stood in my empty bedroom surrounded by garbage bags of my wife's belongings, I wasn't sure anything about this was right. Necessary, maybe. Just probably. But right? That evening, after the girls had gone to Clara's, I sat on my porch with a bottle of whiskey I'd been saving for a special occasion. This seemed to qualify. A vehicle approached, not one I recognized. I tensed, then relaxed as Vincent Garcia stepped out. Brought you something, he said, handing me a flash drive. Every photo, every video, every piece of evidence I gathered. Figured you might want it for the legal proceedings. Thanks. Hell of a thing you did today. Had to be done. Still, he accepted the glass of whiskey I offered. Takes courage to burn it all down like that. Didn't burn it down. Just exposed what was already rotten. We drank in silence, watching the sun set over the mountains. You know she's at a motel in town, Vincent said eventually. The wagon wheel, crying to anyone who'll listen that you set her up. Did I? Maybe a little, but she lit the match. After he left, I called the girls at Clara's. "You okay, Dad?" Georgia asked. "I should be asking you that." "We're fine. Grandma's making tamales and telling stories about Grandpa." "Good. That's good. Dad, what happens now?" "Now we rebuild. Just the three of us." "4," Ruby's voice came through. "Grandma says she's moving in for a while." "5," Georgia corrected. "Don't forget Cinnamon." I actually laughed. My horse counted as family, but my soon-to-be ex-wife didn't. That about summed it up. Sunday came with unexpected visitors. First was Bob McKenzie from WCC. "Hell of a way to find out you're my boss," he said, shaking my hand. "Sorry about that, Bob." "Don't be. Your father would have done the same, maybe worse." He grinned. "Monday's board meeting should be interesting." "I'll be there." "Good. Time you started acting like the owner instead of hiding behind that regional manager nonsense." After he left, more people came. Neighbors with casseroles and sympathy, ranch hands offering support, even the pastor, though I hadn't been to church in months. "I'm not here to judge," Pastor Williams said, "just to remind you that forgiveness is divine." "I'll leave the forgiving to God," I told him. "I'm just a man." The call I'd been dreading came Sunday night. "Ansel?" Frida's voice was hoarse, broken. "You shouldn't be calling me. Please, just listen. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I got lost. I got confused. Rembrandt manipulated me. Stop. Please, I love you." "No, you don't. You love the idea of me, the security I provided, the life I gave you. But me? You haven't loved me in years if you ever did." "That's not true. Frida, you used my mother's identity. You brought your lover into our home. You planned to take everything and leave our daughters. Which part of that is love?" Silence. Then, quietly, "I never meant for it to go this far." "But it did. And now you face the consequences." 10 years, Ansel. They're saying I could get 10 years. You should have thought of that before. What about the girls? They need their mother. You should have thought of that too. I hung up, blocked her number. It was over. Monday morning came bright and clear. I dressed in my best suit, the one I'd worn to my father's funeral, and drove to WCC headquarters in Cheyenne. The building was impressive, all glass and steel, modern but with touches of Western architecture. I'd been here before, of course, but always as an employee. Now I walked in as the owner. "Mr. Rodriguez," the receptionist stood as I approached. "The board is waiting in the main conference room." The walk to that conference room felt like crossing from one life to another. With each step, I shed the skin of the simple rancher, the deceived husband, the man who'd hidden his true self for so long. I opened the door to find 12 faces turning toward me. Men and women who ran the cattle industry in Wyoming, now my employees. "Gentlemen, ladies." I took my seat at the head of the table. "Let's talk about the future of Wyoming Cattle Corporation." That afternoon, I met Monet at the courthouse. Frida was being arraigned. She looked small in the orange jumpsuit, her hair pulled back, no makeup. She looked older, defeated. When she saw me, her eyes filled with tears. The charges were read: fraud, identity theft, conspiracy to commit fraud. She pled not guilty, of course. Bail was set at $50,000. "She won't make bail," Monet whispered. "Already checked, she has maybe $5,000 to her name." So she'd sit in jail until trial. Part of me felt bad about that. Part of me didn't. As they led her away, she looked back at me one more time. Her lips moved. "I'm sorry." I didn't respond. Sorry didn't fix anything. Sorry didn't undo the betrayal. Sorry was just a word, and words from her meant nothing anymore. That evening, I brought the girls home. The house felt different without Frida's presence, without Rembrandt's false laughter. Cleaner, honest. "It's weird," Ruby said, looking around, "like she was never here." "She was here," I said, "but now she's not, and we move forward." "Together," Georgia added. "Together." We had dinner that night, just the three of us and Clara around the kitchen table. Simple food, nothing fancy, but it tasted better than anything we'd eaten in months. "Tell us about Grandpa," Ruby asked Clara. Clara smiled, the lines around her eyes deepening. "Your grandfather was a great man, hard sometimes, stubborn always, but honest. He would have been proud of your father today. Even the public humiliation part? Georgia asked. Especially that part, Clara laughed. Miguel believed in consequences. In truth, he would have said Frida got exactly what she deserved. After the girls went to bed, Clara and I sat on the porch watching the stars. You did right, mijo. Did I? I destroyed her life. No, she destroyed her life. You just made sure everyone knew it. The girls will grow up without a mother. They'll grow up with a father who stood for something, who didn't let anyone walk over him or his family. That's worth more than a lying mother. Maybe she was right, maybe not. But it was done now. As I headed to bed, I stopped at the girls' rooms. Georgia was reading, Ruby was already asleep. Both safe, both home, both mine. That's all that mattered now. The rest, the legal battles, the divorce proceedings, Frida's trial that would all come. But tonight, my daughters were safe. The truth was known, and justice had been served. Wyoming justice, frontier justice, Rodriguez justice. And tomorrow? Tomorrow we'd start rebuilding. One day at a time, one truth at a time, one sunrise at a time. The storm had passed. Now came the healing. Chapter 9. The morning after Frontier Days dawned quiet as a held breath. I stood in my kitchen, coffee going cold in my hand, watching the sun creep across the floor where just weeks ago Rembrandt had sat pretending to be family. The house felt different now, lighter somehow, like we'd opened windows that had been painted shut for years. Dad. Ruby stood in the doorway, still in her pajamas, hair a mess. She looked younger than her 15 years, vulnerable in a way that made my chest ache. Morning, baby girl. Is it weird that everything feels normal? Like, shouldn't it feel more different? I set down my mug, pulled her into a hug. Normal's relative, I guess. We're making a new normal now. She nodded against my chest. Georgia's still asleep. I think she cried herself out last night. Did you? Maybe. She pulled back, looked up at me with those fierce Rodriguez eyes. Dad, what happens now? Like really happens? Before I could answer, someone knocked at the door. Through the window, I saw 3 of our neighbors, the Millers from down the road, old Mrs. Henderson with what looked like a casserole dish, and Tom Bradley from the feed store. Looks like Cheyenne's come calling, I said. The next hour was a parade of Wyoming solidarity. Casseroles, pies, firm handshakes, and fierce hugs. Tom Bradley, a man of maybe 20 words on a chatty day, gripped my shoulder and said, You did right, Ansel. Don't let anyone tell you different. Mrs. Henderson, who'd known my father, pulled me aside. Miguel would have done the same, maybe worse. That woman betrayed more than marriage vows. She betrayed the code we all live by out here. After they left, Georgia finally emerged, hollow-eyed but trying to smile. We sat around the kitchen table, the 3 of us, surrounded by enough food to feed an army. The whole town knows, Georgia said. It wasn't a question. Yeah, good, Ruby said fiercely. Let them know. Let everyone know what she did. Ruby, I started. No, Dad. I'm tired of pretending everything's okay. It's not okay. She chose him over us. She was going to steal from us, leave us. Her voice cracked. She hit me. Georgia reached over, took her sister's hand. She's going to pay for it. Is she? Ruby looked at me. Really? The law's involved now. Monet filed everything yesterday. Your mom. Frida will face consequences. I couldn't bring myself to say your mother easily anymore. The woman who'd done these things, she wasn't the mother they deserved. Clara arrived that afternoon, my fierce little mother who'd weathered her own storms. She took one look at us and started giving orders. Ruby, help me in the kitchen. Georgia, we're doing laundry. Ansel, you're cleaning out that woman's things. No arguments. It was exactly what we needed: purpose, movement, something to do with our hands while our hearts tried to catch up with reality. I stood in what used to be our bedroom, staring at Frida's closet. Her perfume still hung in the air, that expensive stuff she'd started wearing recently, probably for him. One by one, I pulled her clothes from hangers, folded them into boxes. Each piece held a memory: the blue dress she wore to Georgia's school play, the jacket I'd bought her for Christmas 3 years back, the nightgown from our anniversary. Dad? Georgia stood in the doorway. You okay? Just remembering. She came in, picked up a scarf from the bed. She wore this when she took us to Denver that time. We saw that musical, remember? She seemed so happy. Maybe she was. Maybe there were moments. Don't! George's voice was sharp. Don't make excuses for her. Not now. She was right. This wasn't the time for nostalgia or what-ifs. By evening, every trace of Frida was boxed up, stacked in the garage. The house felt strange without her presence, but also ours. Finally ours. That night we sat on the porch despite the cooling air. The stars were coming out, same as always, indifferent to our human dramas. I keep thinking I'll wake up, Ruby said quietly, like this is all some weird dream. I know, baby. Do you think she loved us at all? Georgia asked. Or were we just props in her life? The question hung in the air like smoke from a distant fire. How do you tell your daughters that their mother's love was real but insufficient? That she loved them the only way she knew how, which wasn't enough? I think, I said carefully, she loved you as much as she was capable of. But sometimes people's capacity for love gets twisted up with their want for other things. Like money, Ruby said bitterly. Like freedom from a life she thought was too small, I corrected. She couldn't see that what we had was already everything. Clara came out with hot chocolate despite it being July. Sometimes, she said, settling into her chair, people break their own hearts trying to steal happiness instead of building it. Is that what she did, Grandma? Broke her own heart? Georgia asked. See, Mija, and yours in the process. But hearts heal. Not the same as before, but sometimes stronger. The next morning brought reporters. 3 of them, waiting at the end of our drive like vultures. I sent the girls to stay inside while I dealt with them. Mr. Rodriguez, how does it feel to no comment? But surely you want to tell your side. I told my side. At Frontier Days. That's all that needs saying. The young woman from the state paper persisted. Your wife is facing serious charges, 10 years potentially. Any regrets about going public? I stopped, turned to face her directly. My only regret is that my daughters had to learn their mother was capable of this. Everything else? That's justice. They left eventually, but I knew they'd be back. Drama like ours was candy to them. Vincent Garcia stopped by that afternoon with a manila envelope. Thought you'd want these, he said, handing it over. Inside were photos, printouts of text messages, hotel receipts, the evidence of Frida's betrayal laid out neat and clean. Burn them, I said, handing it back. You sure? Might need them for... Monet has copies. I don't need to keep reliving this. He nodded, understanding. How are the girls? Surviving. It's hard to know what's normal teenage mood and what's this. They're tough kids. They've got your backbone. Their mothers too, I admitted, for better or worse. After he left, I found the girls in Ruby's room looking through an old photo album. Look, Ruby said, pointing to a picture. This was before, when things were good. It was from a county fair 5 years ago. All 4 of us smiling, Ruby on my shoulders, Georgia holding a prize-winning pie, Frida laughing at something off camera. Were things ever really good? Georgia asked. Or were we just not paying attention? Both, I said, sitting on the bed between them. Things were good, and we weren't paying attention. That's how life works sometimes. I hate her, Ruby said quietly. Is that wrong? No, baby. You feel what you feel. Hate's heavy, though. Eventually, you might want to put it down. Not yet. No, I agreed. Not yet. Chapter 10. August came in hot and dry, the kind of weather that turns grass to tinder and makes cattle bunch up in whatever shade they can find. The divorce papers were final signed, sealed, delivered. 18 years of marriage dissolved in a 10-minute hearing that Frida didn't even attend. But the criminal case, that was different. She's looking at real time, Monet explained over coffee in her office. The identity theft, the fraud, the prosecutor wants to make an example. How much time? 10 years, potentially. Probably plea down to 5 with good behavior. 5 years. Ruby would be 20. Georgia would be through college. The girls want to be there, for the sentencing. Monet raised an eyebrow. That's unusual. They need closure. They need to see that actions have consequences. September 15th. The courtroom was smaller than I expected, all wood paneling and uncomfortable benches. Frida sat at the defendant's table in an orange jumpsuit that washed out her complexion. She'd lost weight, her hair pulled back in a simple ponytail. She looked smaller somehow, diminished. When she saw us, her face crumpled. She mouthed, "I'm sorry," to the girls who sat stone-faced beside me. The prosecutor laid out the case methodically. The phone bills, the evidence of the affair, the conspiracy to defraud. Each piece of evidence another nail. When it came time for victim impact statements, Clara stood first. "This woman," she said, voice steady as iron, "used my identity, my good name, to facilitate her lies. She sat at my table, ate my food, called me mama, all while stealing from me. In my culture, in our family. Such betrayal." She paused, composed herself. "I pray she finds redemption, but I also pray she faces justice." I spoke next, keeping it brief. "The damage done to my family can't be measured in dollars or years. My daughters have to live with their mother's choices forever. I ask the court to consider that." Then Frida spoke. "I destroyed everything," she said, voice barely audible. "I betrayed the only people who ever truly loved me. I was selfish and cruel and—" She looked at the girls. "I'm so sorry. I know that's not enough, but I'm so sorry." The judge, a stern woman named Henderson, took her time with the sentence. "Mrs. Rodriguez, you've pled guilty to serious crimes, identity theft, fraud, conspiracy. But beyond the legal violations, you've broken sacred trusts. The trust of marriage, of motherhood, of family." She paused. "I sentence you to 10 years in state prison, with possibility of parole in 5. Frida's lawyer had his head in his hands. Frida herself just nodded like she'd expected it. As they led her away, she looked back one more time. Georgia was crying silently. Ruby's jaw was set, eyes dry. "It's over," I said quietly. "No," Ruby replied. "Now it starts getting better." The news about Rembrandt came through Raphael. He'd been extradited to Texas, pled out to 3 years for the outstanding fraud charges. He'd be someone else's problem now. "Good riddance," Clara said when she heard. "Fake cowboys don't last in real country." October brought unexpected changes. First, the Wyoming Stock Growers Association nominated me to their board recognition that had more to do with respect than sympathy. Then, WCC's board officially acknowledged me as majority owner, ending years of shadow ownership. "You're out of the closet now," Bob McKenzie joked. "How's it feel to be officially rich?" "Like a bigger target for the tax man," I replied, getting a laugh. But the biggest change was personal. Dr. Marisol Vega had been our veterinarian for years, a steady presence who'd helped birth calves and heal horses. After Frontier days, she started stopping by more often. "Just checking on that heifer," she'd say. But she'd stay for coffee, help Ruby with her barrel racing technique, talk to Georgia about college. "She likes you," Georgia informed me one evening, blunt as always. "She's a friend. Dad, she brought you homemade tamales 3 times this week. That's not friendship, that's courtship." I wasn't ready. Might never be ready. But Marisol didn't push. She was just there. Steady and warm and kind in ways I'd forgotten people could be. "Your father's allowed to be happy," Clara told the girls one evening when Marisol had joined us for dinner. "That doesn't erase your mother or replace her. It's just new." "We know, Grandma," Ruby said. "We want Dad to be happy." "But not yet," Georgia added quickly. "It's too soon." "I agree," I said, and meant it. My heart was still too bruised, trust still too fragile, but something was shifting. The ranch felt alive again. The girls were laughing more. Even the sunrise looked different, full of possibility instead of dread. Chapter 11. December brought the first real snow, blanketing the ranch in pristine white that made everything look clean and new. 4 months had passed since Frontier days, and we'd found our rhythm, the 3 of us, plus Clara, who'd moved into the guest room temporarily, but had already redecorated it twice. "Dad, I want to see her." Ruby stood in my office doorway, chin raised in that defiant way that reminded me so much of her mother it hurt. "You sure?" "It's Christmas. Or almost. and I have things to say. Georgia appeared behind her. We both do. The prison was 2 hours north, a gray complex that looked exactly as depressing as you'd imagine. The visiting room smelled like disinfectant and despair. Frida looked older. Prison does that, ages you in ways that have nothing to do with time. When she saw the girls, she started crying immediately. My babies, she whispered. We're not babies, Ruby said sharply. We're the daughters you abandoned. The visit lasted an hour. I waited in the car, letting them have their space. When they came out, both were crying. She's pathetic, Ruby said, but there was less venom in it than before. She's broken, Georgia corrected. Really broken. Did you forgive her? They exchanged glances. No, Georgia said, but we told her maybe someday. Maybe. That night, Ruby wrote a letter she'd never send. Dear Mom, I hate what you did. I hate that you chose him. I hate that you lied. But I saw you today and you looked so small, and I remembered when you taught me to ride a bike, and I hate that I still love you even though you broke us. Your daughter, still. I found it on the kitchen table the next morning, read it, and put it back exactly where she'd left it. Some things were meant to be witnessed, not discussed. January brought unexpected news. Marisol was leaving, taking a position at Colorado State's veterinary program. It's a great opportunity, she said over coffee, not meeting my eyes. That's not why you're going. She smiled sadly. No, but you're not ready, Ansel. And I don't want to be the rebound who helps you heal just to watch you move on. Marie, it's okay, really. You need time. The girls need time. And I need to not be waiting around hoping. She was right, of course. My heart was still in pieces, held together with baling wire and stubbornness. I wish things were different, I told her. Maybe they will be, someday. She left in February. Ruby cried. Georgia pretended not to. I threw myself into work, expanding WCC's holdings, planning for spring calving, anything to avoid thinking about chances missed and hearts too damaged to accept kindness. Chapter 12, July 2015. 1 year later. The morning of Frontier Days, I stood in the same arena where I'd destroyed my marriage a year ago. This time, I was just another spectator, watching Ruby compete in junior barrel racing. She flew around those barrels like her hair was on fire, Daisy responding to every shift of weight, every subtle cue. When she crossed the finish line second place, her grin could have powered half of Cheyenne. That's my girl, I shouted, not caring who heard. Georgia, home from her first year at University of Wyoming, laughed. Dad, you're embarrassing. That's my job. The truth was, we'd all changed. Georgia had grown serious about agricultural business, talking about sustainable ranching and market innovations with a passion that made me proud. Ruby had channeled her anger into determination, becoming one of the best young riders in the state. And me, I'd learned to sleep alone without nightmares, to walk through my house without seeing ghosts, to believe that maybe I could trust again someday. Mr. Rodriguez? I turned to find a familiar face. Marisol, looking sun-kissed and happy. Mari, you're back? Visiting. My sister lives in Laramie now. She paused. You look good, happy. Getting there. The girls? Thriving. Ruby just placed in barrels. I saw. She's gotten so tall. We stood there awkward as teenagers until Georgia appeared. Dr. Vega! She hugged Marisol fiercely. We missed you. Missed you too, sweetheart. Ruby joined us, still glowing from her ride. Mari, did you see? Did you see me ride? You were amazing, mija. We ended up having dinner together, not planned, just happened. The girls monopolized Marisol's attention, telling her about school, boys, horses, dreams. I watched and realized something had shifted in me. The sharp edges of betrayal had worn smooth. The constant ache had faded to occasional twinges. Walk with me? Marisol asked after dinner. We strolled through the fairgrounds, past the livestock barns and vendor booths, comfortable in shared silence. I heard Frida got transferred. Minimum security. Yeah, good behavior. The girls okay with that? They write to her now, once a month. Their choice. And you? I considered. I'm okay with them having whatever relationship they need with her. She's their mother, despite everything. That's generous. That's parenting. We stopped at the same spot where I'd stood with the microphone a year ago, exposing everything. Any regrets? She asked. About that? No. About other things. I looked at her. Yeah, some regrets. We all have those. Mari, when you left, you weren't ready. I wasn't wrong about that. No, but I handled it badly. I should have... Ansel. She touched my arm. We both did what we needed to. No apologies necessary. What if I'm ready now? She studied me. Are you? Or are you just lonely? It was a fair question. I thought about the past months, the work I'd done to rebuild not just my life, but my capacity to trust. I don't know, I admitted, but I'd like to find out. Slowly, carefully, if you're willing. I'm here for 3 more days. That's a start. She smiled that warm, genuine smile I'd missed more than I'd admitted. That's a start, she agreed. Later back home, I found the girls on the porch, despite the late hour. So, Georgia said, trying to sound casual, Dr. Vega seems good. She does. You gonna see her again? Maybe. Good, Ruby said firmly. You deserve to be happy, Dad. We all do. Yeah, Georgia agreed. We all do. I sat between my daughters, my fierce, resilient girls who'd survived betrayal and emerged stronger. Above us, the Wyoming stars wheeled in their eternal dance, indifferent and eternal. You know what Grandpa used to say? I told them. He said the prairie teaches you that storms pass, grass grows back, and the sun always rises. Grandma says something similar, Ruby noted, except with more Spanish curse words. We laughed real, genuine laughter that came from our bellies and filled the night air. A year ago, I'd stood in an arena and torn my life apart in front of 30,000 people. It had been necessary, brutal, and public. But here, in the quiet aftermath, we'd built something new. Not perfect, not without scars, but real and honest and ours. The future stretched ahead, uncertain as always. Frida would get out eventually. The girls would grow up, leave, build their own lives. I might find love again or might not. The ranch would endure as it always had. But tonight, we were together. We were healing. We were home. And that was enough. That was everything. Watching Ansel choose public humiliation over private confrontation made me realize that sometimes the cruelest betrayals deserve the brightest spotlight not for revenge, but for the protection of those who might be fooled next. While some might call his actions extreme, I found myself asking, in a world where cheaters often rewrite history to make themselves victims, was his nuclear option actually the most honest path forward?